Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Today, I am going to talk about commercial surrogacy in India. Not only in India, but how the surrogacy keeps on moving from country to country, and how it gets banned, and how the issues have still not been resolved, and how it accounts to global injustice. So if you look at one set of countries, India, Thailand, and Nepal have recently banned surrogacy for foreigners. I'll come back to this in the final slide again about why some of the human rights issues have not been addressed in spite of the fact that these have been banned. Russia, Ukraine, and USA continue to be hubs for commercial surrogacy globally. And Iran and Dubai are the newly emerging destinations for commercial surrogacy in the world. And why was India one of the destinations is because there is poverty and there is cheaper surrogacy. It's cheaper to come to India and do the surrogacy than doing it in USA probably. So one of the reasons is poverty. So the official estimates say that 22% of the total population in India are below poverty line, and there are other private studies that say that it is 56%, and this includes essential needs, that is housing, clothing, education, and so many other factors, not just how much money they earn. And as you can see, surrogacy is cheaper in India. Couples who spend $200,000 in the USA spend about $50,000 in India for surrogacy. Carrying forward the same point, if you look at this photograph, on your left-hand side is a surrogate mother. She worked as a housemaid, and she could not earn enough money to maintain her family. Her husband is unemployed, and they live in that one room that you can see without a toilet and bathroom. And she wants to basically buy a house exactly of that size. It's just 4 walls that she wants to buy, which she can call her own, and so that she doesn't have to pay rent for it. And she wants to save some money for her son's education. And if you see on the other hand, this is one couple, they are from Canada, and her husband owns an IT firm, and she has 3 children now. The first child she picked up from Thailand, and the second twin she got from India. And one of the main reasons she came to India was because it was cheaper, it was lesser hassle. Legally, there was lesser hassle, and there was lesser rights for the surrogate mothers in India. If you look at the other point, that is the surrogate mothers are kept in surrogate homes in India, which is a very, very unique case, but it is extent of which human rights violations can lead to. They are detained in these houses for 10 months during their entire process of surrogacy. They are overfed. They are not allowed to move much. They have restricted movements. They cannot do much housework. They cannot move. And they are restricted from meeting their family members. They are allowed to meet, but it's highly restricted under restricted conditions. So it is an inability for them to participate in any kind of public life or meet any non-reproductive aspirations, which is one of the basic human rights violations I feel for these women. Now, apart from that, they are not given any life or medical insurance. They do not have any payment in case there is a miscarriage. They have no rights over the child born. They have to sign off the rights of the children before the child is, even before entering into the contract. And they have no rights on what kind of surrogacy they want, what kind of payment do they want, what kind of relinquishment do they want, how do they want the child to be given away. Do they want to first bond with the child a little bit and give away, or some clinics don't even show the face of the child to the surrogate mother, and some expect them to bond by even breastfeeding. So there are 2 different extremes that go on, but it is without her consent. So that these are all blatant human right violations that take place. And if you look at the distribution of benefits here, on your left side you can see that was a small hut that was Akanksha Clinic in Anand, and recently they planned to make a huge complex. That was the plan that was put up in the website. that they planned a new complex with everything included. So there will be surrogate homes, there will be residence for intended parents, there will be shopping malls, all inclusive. So, and this was costing millions of rupees. So that is the amount of money they earn. But if you look at the surrogate mother's share, she gets, in the US, there is 35% of the share that she gets. But in India, it can be, the maximum limit she gets is 25% of the cost that is spent on the surrogacy. The other point that I have to say is global injustice is that there's a violation of good medical practices. So legally, up to 3 embryos are allowed to be transferred into a mother's womb. But in India, illegally, 5 embryos are transferred into the surrogate mother's womb. There are in utero selective abortions that take place in case more than 2 embryos conceive or fertilize. There are selective abortions that take place. All these mothers go through compulsory cesarean sections because they don't want the babies to be born as a vaginal birth, because they feel there's a 1% chance that the child might get hurt, scratched, whatever, through the process. So they do not want the child to go through that process. So it is a compulsory cesarean section. And all this is done without even asking her consent. Why? Because she is motivated due to money, and she's expected to do everything for that. The other point is the commodification of children. So from my fieldwork, I realized that most of these births that are taking place, there are preterm births. So these are all huge babies. So they're carrying Western babies, mainly twins and sometimes even triplets. So they cannot carry these babies to full term. So they deliver these babies in 6 or 7 months. So most of them are preterm. They are underweight, grossly underweight. So we do not know how many are actually surviving once they take them abroad. And in my fieldwork, I found some disabled children who were either left in orphanages, and one of the girl child that it was an Indian couple who had a surrogacy in India, and a girl child was born without a hand, and the surrogate mother told me that next day there was a child found under the bridge, and she had very high doubts that that baby was this baby that she had given birth to. So you can imagine the kind of violations and that are happening even to children. So children born to intended parents evading law are left unsteady. As we all know that there are legal cases all over the world of children who are intended parents who come from countries where it is illegal, and they come to India and they are stranded there for months together or sometimes even years, and they are unable to take the children back. So my concluding comments are that in spite of the fact that India has banned surrogacy for so-called foreigners and also for Indians who have lived abroad for a long time, there are some human rights issues that remain unanswered. And this not only relates only to India, but it is similar for those emerging countries like Dubai and Iran, and how it is moving around, but the human rights issues have not been addressed. One is exploitation. The other is, as I have already said in the slides before, unfair distribution of benefits. Informed consent is questionable. There is unequal distribution of health resources, both in the source countries and the destination countries. So it's only the rich people from the source countries who can go to do surrogacy outside, and it is only the poor women in the destination countries who are being used for surrogacy. And there's unequal access in the source countries. There's a violation of good medical practices, as I've already said. There's a commodification of body and the children, and violation of basic human rights. Ultimately, that's what I want to say. So, yeah.